want to get dark.
Please.
You said to me, all of us guys in business have been through some tough shit. I've had my tears. I've lost money. I've won money. I've got out of businesses. I've made myself redundant. We've all been through those really painful pieces, and probably somebody right now is listening to us and going, I'm in there.
Yeah.
Like, I need some help.
Yeah. You can come with me or not, but I'm gone. Be careful how much you give up for this business, because at the end of the day, you'll get to a point one day where all the money and all the cars and all the flashy shit in the world won't matter if you don't have a family to love. You don't have someone there to share it with. You don't have people around you. And that hit me like a truck. That was a dangerous point where my obsession took me to a dark place that was really, really hard. That almost cost me more than money could buy.
Today we'll be sitting down with Sam Morton from Skoda Motor Creative. Sam has built a $10 million empire from his bedroom in Adelaide to a global organisation with offices in Adelaide and San Diego. Sam is living proof that passion has a large role to play in the pursuit of one's purpose. Expect to learn what it takes to scale a global company, the process for turning passion into purpose, navigating the shit show of business, and high-performance parenting. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Morton. Relentless commitment to a single mission. No deviation, no reservation. Just fucking go and you'll get there. What does this mean?
I get asked a fair bit, like people in a similar position to yourself, I guess, or people that want to know about the story, right? They ask me, they're like, what's the single thing? Like why did you become quote unquote successful? Like, what did you do? Like, what's your big secret, right? Like, people get asked that. So I've had to think about that a bit over periods of time, even just for my own sake, because I think that realistically, the one thing that I feel like I did beyond what sometimes others do is just like commit like beyond what you think is even physically possible, right? Like just like I had no hesitation at any point. I never considered anything else. Like once I decided that this was what I was going to do, which was pretty early on, like that was it. Like I had blinkers on. There was nothing that was going to stop me. It wasn't I want to get here. It was I will fucking get here. And that's where that comes from. Because I think that, again, I could only speak to my own experiences, but I think if you can encompass that, whatever the fuck that is, you can do yourself pretty good.
I think that key piece is the single mission. It's the single focus. Yep. It's the blinkers on. I see so many people come to me with not just a good idea, but come to me with a business that is working well, and they have another thing and another thing and another thing, and they dilute their attention down until they can't do anything meaningful with their time. You must have had so many opportunities where things come up and you're like, I should. It really is a good idea. It stacks up on paper, but you stay on the single mission.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like early days, there wasn't even distractions because I couldn't even see them. Like I was just too locked in, like I didn't even hear the outside suggestions or consider the side-by-side options. Like I was just in, like I was there. That's what I was going to do. And I was just completely locked. So, later on in the last, past the first 5, 6, 7 years, then those sort of things come up to you and you have to be a little bit more conscious about saying yes or no to opportunities as they present. But then I've just always defaulted back to that, right? Like if that's not what I'm fucking here for, that's not what I'm aiming at, like I'm good. Shut the fuck up, keep moving,
There's definitely a passion that I see in you and I see that comes through the brand that we don't see in many other businesses, and particularly not in your generic day-to-day companies. What role does this piece of passion have to play in building your empire?
Everything. Like everything, which is again speaks to the first point, right? Like I've said it before, like what I now have the opportunity to do as a job or as something that I do instead of work to earn income, to live my life, like I would pay money to do. Like it's ridiculous, right? Like obviously there's still parts of the job that you don't always enjoy. That's part of the gig. But like the overall thing that I do is design motorcycles to look cool for customers around the world or for the top athletes in the world and for the coolest brands in the world. And like I get freaking paid to do that. Like it's just freaking ridiculous, man. Like it blows my mind constantly. And I think that helps, right? Like once the decision came from the point of like when I realized that there was actually a possibility here, I've found something that I am obsessed with and would do for every minute of every day if my body would allow me to, and I could actually get paid for it. And that was it. Like, so my point being, that answer is the same as the first. Like, they are the same thing. You know, the passion is why I was able to lock in without any intentional effort, which again is why I think the main result that I've done well, you know.
Because you're driven and you pulled towards it.
Yeah.
What does a normal day look like? Paint a picture for the guys at home trying to work out when you have 30, 40 guys in your team and you've got a couple offices around the world. What does a normal day look like?
I've put a lot of intentional focus over the last 5 years, let's say, on getting the business to a point that it didn't require me in any capacity. So the business, and that is completely factual, right? Like I could quite happily leave the country for a year, not talk to anyone, get back in the business and be fine. Obviously there would be opportunities missed, and I'm sure some things would have gone better with me involved. And like, I still think I'm great at problem solving and I'm really good at making systems and etc. Like, I still see myself as key to the organization, but I've intentionally built it in a way that if I don't do the things that someone else expects me to do, nothing's going to fall over. Mm-hmm. Which leads me now to the position where I'm in a very, very fortunate position, and I completely appreciate that, where I can literally do what I want to do with my time. So sometimes that is the thing that the business most needs me to do, or has the most value to gain from that activity with me doing it. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like, I want to do that. And I don't give a fuck if there's 10 other things that I need to do. And I don't care if that guy's better at it than me. I want to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. So as I said to you before we started recording, like, I very much restrict the amount of time I allow myself to be involved in work physically. Therefore, I need to be very careful of how I utilize my time. Therefore, every day is slightly different, but you'll often find that I'm doing something that I really, really want to do and really enjoy doing, even if technically speaking, from the outside looking in, maybe that's not the most valuable use of the CEO's time, right? Mm-hmm. But that's by design, and that's intentional, and that's the way that I want it, and I'm good with it, you know?
I'm sure there's a lot of guys listening that have a company that completely pulls them in every direction.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't got through the next couple phases to the point where they do have a leadership team, an executive team that can run the company without them. When you roll into work on a day where your calendar is open, how do you frame up or work out what you should be working on?
I use a very simple method that I'm sure plenty of people do, right? Like, write down everything. I've got a digital version. Sometimes I prefer to use a notepad, and I'll write down all the things that are current things to do, prioritize them accordingly in terms of urgency, in terms of who's waiting for what or whatever. And then I will go through and select, okay, these 3 things I want to definitely get done today. And if I get time, I'll do these 3 things too. And as I said earlier, they can be, sometimes that's related to things that are actually urgent and the company really needs from me. Sometimes it's related to the actual genuine value that the company can get back out of it. But sometimes it's just the fact that, no, I want to do this today. This is what I want to do with my time. The company's not going to fall over if I spend half a day on this thing. So this is what I'm going to do.
And you get to scratch the itch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that, like, on a more literal sense, I am still heavily involved with the relationships with the pro race teams and the big brands. I really enjoy that. I still manage or sit on top of the product design team because I'm a graphic designer. That's where the sort of funds come from, the love of it's come from. And then I also find myself quite good at creating systems and automations and scalable operational benefits, right? So I think that they're the 3 things I spend most of my time with, like high-end relationships, product design, and then scalable systems.
I want to pick on the partnerships component because you work with a heap of pro riders. I heard that you work with Red Bull as well. We've got some Deos stuff coming out too. What does it really look like from a commercial perspective, this partnerships game? Is this something that you would do in lieu of ads? Is this part of your marketing and growth strategy? And then how do you come about it?
Yeah, these partnerships we do, especially the more public ones, the louder ones, right? They have benefits in all of the above areas, right? Like, it has big value for brand credibility, big value for brand awareness, positioning, obviously, general ads, general sales, all that sort of stuff. But I'd be lying if I said that that was the motivation, right? Like, it's just personal satisfaction. Like again, you know, working with the teams we work with, the riders we work with, the brands we work with, like, 10-year-old me screams his freaking head off every day, right? And I still feel the same way. Like, it's just ridiculous to me, right? Like, you know, we've got this global partnership with Triumph now. We're their exclusive partner globally. That took me literally 2 years of intentional relationship building and connection finding and badgering almost to some extent people to get to a point where they were willing to sit me at the table, and then I worked through the negotiation process, beat out other competitors, got the deal, and then made the most of it ever since. And like, yeah, from a numbers perspective, that's been massive. Like the sales we've had directly or indirectly as a result of that deal specifically have been astronomical to our growth over the past couple of years, right? But I don't care. Like real me doesn't give a fuck. Like real me, like this is the coolest shit in the world. You know, this stupid brand that I made from my bedroom in Woodside, everyone told me I'd have no chance of getting anywhere, is now alongside a brand like Triumph, which is they've got 5,000 staff globally. Like everyone knows the brand, and we're pitched alongside them on billboards. Yep. You know, like it's just like, it's ridiculous, man. Like it just blows my mind. And they love what I do. They give me genuine satisfaction when we deliver stuff. Like it's just the best feeling in the world. Nothing can match it. So again, conveniently, there's other benefits, but realistically, it's just me doing what I want to do with my time, and it happens to be something that generates business, you know?
Yep. It all fits in the same sphere.
Yeah.
Is there any cheeky publicity stunts, funny stories about getting in front of a partnership or a sponsor, or, you know, those kind of relationships? Is there, you haven't gone and done wheelies down the front of the Triumph head office and that kind of thing? Is there one that sticks out where you're like,
there is one
that was a big moment?
There is, but I can't talk about it because it was too cheeky. It's tricky. Like I think that...
Whitewash the names.
Yeah. I think that I do a good job at selling something to important people. And it's not because I'm good at sales. It's because I genuinely believe in what I do. Right? And I love what I do. So the passion, which everyone talks about, that I have, people say that to me after speaking to me for 15 seconds, right? Like people just pick it up, right? And I'm not completely aware of why and how, but they just pick it up. So I guess it oozes in some regard, right? So I think that just makes these conversations easy, because I know if I can get an opportunity to speak to someone like in person about it, or video call, you know, it's 2025, then they pretty quickly pick up on the fact they just like something. There's something that grabs them, you know, like, fuck, I like this kid. You know, like I like what he's about, like I like his ankle. You know, even the Triumph thing, when we eventually got a seat at the table with the execs at Triumph UK, which took me a lot of time to get to that point, right? Had a meeting with them, had a follow-up meeting with them, and we were not the best placed option that they had. You know, there was other people on the table that were more stable, more local to them, bigger companies, more money in the pockets, but there was just something about it. They hit me up and they're like, we just want to work with you, man. We don't know what it is, but we want it. So I said, look, instead of you pitching us and we putting you against the rest, we'll just tell you what the others are doing, and if you can match, the deal's yours. And it was completely achievable. And as I sort of mentioned, like, this isn't about money for me. It's never been. That's just a happy accident of the result of it all, right? So I'll pay whatever I need to pay. I don't care. I'll get this deal. I'm sensible, you know, like I'll do my calculated assessments on where I think it can be and how, but I might not take that to a fine edge comb of accuracy. I get a feeling based on my gut, based on some initial sort of assessments, and decided this is worth doing. So I just said, yeah, fuck it, man. I'll give you what you want. Let's make it happen, you know, which is exciting for everybody. You know, they love it. I love it. So I think that, again, tricks aside, I just think that given the right opportunity to speak to the right people, my genuineness can sell most things that I want to get a hold of, you know.
I'm going to be really cheesy here and go, this is the search and supply of the art within moto, isn't it? And there's a play on words there, the heart.
Yeah.
You are very, very specific about the way you position your messaging. Can you explain for us how the heart fits into the art within? Yeah.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time getting to a point where we felt we had a tagline, motto, whatever, right? It changes. I mean, the company's changed so much over the 15 years I've run it, because I started when I was a stupid kid and now I'm slightly less of a stupid kid. We hit that one. We came across that a couple of years ago. We were rewriting our mission statement and I was trying to work out how to articulate it. And I started off with, our mission is the search and supply of the art within moto. And to be frank, the heart was completely unintentional. It was never meant to be there. It wasn't part of it. I shortened it down to the art within moto to make it a little bit easier to use in certain scenarios, from getting rid of the search and supply. So it was more, chucking on a t-shirt, whatever. And then our our lead product designer just designed a kit one day and used a tagline on a part of the design and bolded out the heart. And I just saw it and it blew my freaking mind.
And
I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? And I hit him up. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And he was just like, I don't know. He thought that's what I always did intentionally. And it was just a happy accident. But we ran with it because realistically, like for us, it is that, you know, like we are not making stickers for dirt bikes. It's not what we're doing. You know, we are like, it's art to us, you know, like we genuinely, the amount of time and effort and finesse we put into the pieces that we release, that again, a lot of the time the consumer just wants it for the simple sake of wanting it, but that's not our intent. Like we're trying to make masterpieces, right? Mm-hmm. So it really is art. And for us, it's hard, you know, it is. It's the feelings that are involved with the sport, like the deep ingrained passion, the way people feel around bikes when they're on bikes, like all that stuff is way beyond what it looks like at the surface level from someone uninvolved, right? Like you can't even word it. It's just mental.
Well, there's the smell of two-stroke. There's bringing your bike out of the van. There's strapping it on the car before you go. Yeah. There's pulling the helmet on. There's coming off. Yeah. That could definitely wake you up as well. But all of those things are deeper than just the isolated experience.
Exactly. And because at a deep level, the brand really is that, you know, like we are artists in this game, and we do this with every part of our souls, every part of our hearts, every part of us. We really do want to be seen as respecting the brand to that level and being deeply involved with it at that level. So the heart thing really, really hit.
I'm going to stop you right there for a moment. If this has got you thinking about your own business, then you're not alone. I work with managing directors all around the country to grow their business. We focus on growing your pipeline, building your team, and developing consistent profit. If this is something you're interested in, shoot me a message on Instagram and let's get back to the show. Help me understand the process for defining the mission, because there's a lot of people that'll be watching and going, I really want to like put the blinkers on. I really want to focus now on my brand, turning off the potential shiny objects and want to zero in. And they've heard you talk about how passionate you are about the mission and the search and supply. How did you come about it? Do you stand in front of a blank whiteboard on your own, AirPods in, and you just stare and stare? Or do you bring a team in? How do you draw it up and how do you refine it?
I think it sort of happened backwards. And what I mean by that is like the mission I knew always. It was always existed, right? Like I never articulated it. And I'd like a fault of mine in some of the early years of employment, which weren't the early years of the company obviously, was that I didn't always properly communicate these things to the people involved in the team, right? So it actually got to a point where the team was becoming so wide that they were losing a bit of the understanding of the messaging and why and how. Therefore, they weren't as attached to the emotional side of it as perhaps they should be to get the most benefit. Mm-hmm. So at that stage, it was pointed out to me that I need to articulate some of these things.
What was team size around that point? Just for number of heads, because that's where you start to dilute. You get the collusions of
maybe like 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
You know, like when it was smaller than that, when it was 3, 4, 5, like it was, you couldn't avoid it because I was in the business running around like a headless chook.
You sit side by side with everybody.
They knew it. They could feel me, right? Like yep. The brand is everything that I'm about and vice versa, you know? Mm-hmm. So they could absorb it unintentionally. But when it got to the size where I wasn't necessarily sitting next to everyone every day and I was slightly doing different projects than everybody else, then it needed a little bit more intentional communication and voice to sort of ensure that it continued to be carried.
Mm. What role does values have to play? Because we chunk them down really. We have a purpose or vision, then we have our mission that the team rallies around, and then we've got our values that sit there as overarching principles, our way of doing things. Yeah. Are you the kind of CEO that has the values printed on the wall and we compare all of our work against those? Where do values sit in?
Yeah, we have done that, yeah. I'm not massive on like the whole, again, sometimes to my detriment, right? But I'm not necessarily massive on the whole like Instagrammable business setup. You know, like where everything's freaking, you know, the ice bars and the bullshit, you know, like I'm not really about that so much. So some of that stuff, like if I don't necessarily feel there's genuine operational gain at an obvious level, then it gets missed or it gets skipped. So that sort of stuff, like I'm not like, we don't start every Monday with everybody standing up in front of the boards and everyone repeat after me our values, you know, like it's not, it's not that, you know, like it's still very much a very real business with just real people doing what we can do. Like I really don't think that I'm anything special. I say that all the time, right? I'm just a dude that got obsessed with something and it turned out well, quote unquote, you know. But I have got that written in there. You know, ours is, it mentions the best. We've got a big poster and it says best up the top. And then there's the technical definition of what that word means. And then underneath that, it says we intend to be the best. Best at customer service, the best product quality, the best, et cetera, in the world with the definition of that word. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of helps people understand the intent we have to chase perfection and our non-willingness to accept anything less. Mm-hmm. And that everything we do should be done with no other option but being the best available in its game compared to everyone in any position. Don't give a hell if our competitors got 100 million more than us. Doesn't matter. We will be better and we will not accept it unless we are not. So I sort of, it's nice to have that written there. We've got it in every different department of the building. It's printed on the wall. So it's nice as a reference and people sometimes refer to it.
That is a bit of a guiding principle really, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't necessarily hold it up on arches every Monday to make sure people are listening. Yeah.
Yep, you're not chanting.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
I suppose I can actually see you walking through the office, having finished products presented to you, having conversations around, is this your best work? What would you do if you were given an extra 2 hours? What were you given what could you produce if you were given an extra 20 or 100 hours on it? Constantly. And then pushing back onto the best. Yeah, but it takes time.
And it happens a bit. I actually had one of my staff write up he had to write up like a 3-sentence paragraph on why Sam is successful, like why Sam is good in his space or something like that, which was a cool exercise, right? Like I didn't have any involvement. I just asked him to write something out.
So you sparked the idea though? He didn't just come in?
It was like an application for, I think it was an application for the speech that I did at Digital Adelaide. Yep. So we had to write up a bit about you and then you had to someone else give the testimonial about you and why people should listen, etc. And he wrote, and I had nothing to do with that. And he wrote in there something along the lines of like, Sam's constant pursuit of perfection is a massive driver, right? Like he talked about how it was quite difficult to live with, but at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why he's quote unquote successful. And I think that that's funny. Like I think that everybody in the business would say the same thing. They know that if they show me something that's 90%, I won't accept it. So they often don't show me, or they show me with gritting their teeth, preparing for it. And I don't ever think that I'm unfair. I'm never unreasonable in my own opinion. I treat people with respect. Like I stand behind the fact that I think that I'm a good leader, I'm a good person, and people respect my angle, but they do also know that I'm not going to accept it if there's something better that's possible.
Mm. And you're consistent to it.
Yeah.
You're not just jumping in and out. I'm here for a couple of minutes. It needs to be perfect. The other day, it's close enough.
Yeah.
It always needs to be perfect.
Correct. Yeah. And sometimes I don't even need to talk, right? They show me something. They say, Sam, what do you think? And I'll just smile at them and walk away, and they know what I think. And they know exactly. Go back and make it better,
I want to know a little bit more about the inner workings of how the business runs from kind of a framework perspective. I personally have ran companies in multiple locations, multiple states. I haven't crossed any ocean to do so. What kind of operating system or corporate governance sits behind the doors that we can't see that enables you to run multiple locations to deliver around the world? Yep. What's the framework?
Yeah. So we use Monday.com, which is intended to be a project management software. We use it to manage the entirety of our operational side of the business, as well as project-based. It's pretty much our entire business is plugged into that. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't shown to us. Something that's really interesting, I think, about this business story, I suppose, is that because I'm in such a niche game, there's no script, there's no tutorials, there's nothing. You can't find anything. So you have to just work it out. You have to do your own testing, create your own processes, do your own failures, literally just work it out, man. You can't read up about it. It's work it out. So, which I think is awesome. I wouldn't want to have had it any other way because I love that. I love problem solving. I love the success you feel when you completely research, assess, find a solution, test the solution, see it in action, feel the benefit of that entire process. It's just awesome. I love it. So all of our systems have always been built with scalability in mind. And even still today, if we find a bottleneck in the company, that becomes a project, not to solve that bottleneck so that it's viable for today, but to solve it so that when we're 10 times this size, that cannot become a bottleneck again. Mm-hmm. So there's a constant action in that space of us automating, systemizing, creating procedures, etc., for not fixing today's problem, but again, so that when we get to 5 times this, that's okay, and we don't have to look at it again until we get to 20 times this, which has been a massive, I think, feather in our cap for the success we've had, because we've always looked for problems that weren't even problems yet and solved them to a level that we maybe never would have needed. But it just means that we don't have the friction points along the way for growth.
If you were to, as you said earlier, that you could, if you were to disappear, hiatus, go to Rio de Janeiro, wherever you wish, how would you be fed the information to know that the company is still thriving?
Yeah.
How does that look?
Yeah, this is something that, so we've got a lot of what they call dashboards in Monday, which show me a lot of the data that I need. I'm like super data savvy and I love that stuff, right? Like I can geek out on a spreadsheet for a week and just freaking love it. I just make formulas and I just love it. It's awesome. And I've intentionally got a few people in the company that have the same trait. So we'd all just geek out together and make dashboards and spreadsheets and just love it, right? So I've got a lot of that set up, like much more than I think plenty of organizations at our level would even consider or see as necessary, but I just love it. So that stuff helps. And then again, in my intentional effort to become less constantly required in the business, I've put in processes and systems that aren't necessarily data-driven, that feed me the information I need to understand the company. We've got the operational manager who manages all the HR and hiring and firing and manage people stuff. Now gives me weekly reports on only the things that I actually want to hear about, and anything that I've told him that I don't want to hear about doesn't get brought to me, even if he thinks it's actually worth my time, right? Yep. So I've sort of created these systems so that I hear about the things that I think are important to hear about, and the things that I don't come to me. So again, like if I was genuinely to piss off for that amount of time, I get my monthly reports about finance, I get my weekly reports about operations, I can dashboard see things. We've got automations that catch stuff before it gets too old, or the systems are set up.
Cool.
I'm sure that I would find things along the way that I wasn't satisfied with, because that's my way. But at the same time, it would absolutely not hit a roadblock.
What bugs me about Instagram, many things bug me about Instagram, but the whole systems and processes, and it's pretty much around the whole business growth area, life, entrepreneurial buzzword scene, where everybody says systems and processes, but nobody tells us what the fuck it actually is.
Sure.
Systems and processes really are just checklists or an abiding way that we do something. And then you've now translated those over to feeding the information from what happens in individual checklists that then are pushed back up either by automation to a dashboard or by human automation to your inbox, I'd say. That then enables you to go to race meets, go to the US, go to partnerships, go wherever you need to go, and still just be able to plug in transit and find out how the company's doing. Yeah.
I think that we have, my use of those words, I am quite proud of the way that we have our system set up. I despise human error. I can't stand it, right? It's unavoidable. We are humans. We will make mistakes. No way around it, right? You can be the smartest dude in the world. You're still going to get stuff wrong. And it just crushes me. I can't stand it. So I've put a lot of effort into eliminating the physical possibility of human error in anywhere I can possibly do so. So and it's ridiculous, the amount of stuff that we don't touch for the sake of efficiency, but for the sake of eliminating human error would knock out companies that are doing plenty more work than us. I'm confident of that, because we've just attached everything that, no one has to remember anything. No one has to write it down. No one has to remember to call that person or push that update to here or make that program talk to that program. We've got it so tightly intertwined. And I think that, again, I don't think that I'm amazing at this. I don't think that we are the best in the world or anything like that. But I do think that from where I've been, let's say, from the experiences that I've had, the level that we've got this to makes me pretty chuffed. I'm pretty excited about it. It's nice to show people. It's nice to sort of have that as a feather in my cap as something that I know how to do. And I think that it's been a big part of why we've got to the point that we have, As an example, we've created a bunch of automations and systems within the design side of what we do, where when I first started this particular project, automation style project, the manual fulfillment that was required to get an order done, like a kit done, within the like file setup side of it, right? Like customizing the kit, customizing the name, number, adding the logos, all that sort of stuff that people genuinely, consistently want. That manual process was about 37 minutes per job, right? From start to finish, every single job.
Just populating the requirements.
Getting the file set up, putting in the customer's information, proofing out to the customer, all that sort of stuff, right? That was 37 minutes. And again, data, I had it to the second. I knew exactly. And I decided that we could make this more efficient, right? So we put a lot of effort into it.
Wasn't fast enough.
we've constantly, and we are still, we're constantly trying to find ways to improve that further. But that was probably 4 years ago, I reckon, that we're about that number, maybe 3. We've now got that down to 3.5 minutes per order. And the staff are not any faster. We have just...
Which would then freeze up capacity by 10%. By 10x.
Yep, exactly. And like eliminates human error, increases job satisfaction, decreases the reliance on humans, increases company capacity. Like it's infinite, right? Decreases costs, increases margins. Like it's infinite, the benefits of that. But we're still not satisfied. We can do better and we will continue to push better. But again, like that's one example of one tiny process within the organization that we have cleaned up to that point. And we've done that with everything we can possibly touch. It's wild. It's wild. I could talk about it all day. But I think that for us, when I say systems and processes, that's the sort of stuff that I'm talking about, increasing the company's capacity and reliance on humans to get things done in the most efficient manner possible.
What about communication? Because you've got multiple locations, multiple levels or tiers of hierarchy in the company. What kind of frameworks or meeting rhythms do you use to keep communication flowing?
I think that is an area that I would like to continue to progress in and get better at. Like we're fine, obviously. The company's working well. But I would like to work on that. I have been working on that intentionally and I want to continue to do so. Like I think that, again, the reliance on automation and systems means that sometimes we don't even need to communicate, but then you lose something in that. You lose some human connection. You lose, some camaraderie. Sometimes, a department won't be completely savvy to what another department's doing when that other department might have 2% of value to add. So it's a growing pain, right? Like we have 40 people now or whatever it is. Last year it was 19. The year before that it was 13. A year before that it was 8. A year before that it was 6. Like if we've gone from, again, obviously it's not some freaking blow up $400 million story, but there are still things that are required to be adjusted through growing even at that rate that need attention and need adaptation. And because I feel like I don't always consider people's requirement for communication beyond my own head because I just rely and back myself in so much. But sometimes it becomes evident to me that that's required, So it's something that I'm actively working on and we do okay at, but I think we can improve.
Let's hold it up for a moment. Lots of guys are going about the game of business alone, and it can be a really lonely journey. I talk with hundreds of founders who go through the very same scenario. And from time to time, we find the right guy and the right business, and I decide to invest in that. If that's something that you're interested in, shoot me a message on Instagram and we can take up the conversation. Now let's get back to the show. Hearing you talk about taking a onboarding process, a new sale essentially, and taking an onboarding process and making it 10x faster screams to me that you could sit across the table from a potential buyer and they would be banging on the door to give you an offer. I always see that people kind of have two perspectives and they sit in the polar side when we get to this. They either want to keep the legacy and you couldn't pay me enough money to get out, or they do get out. They get out for a really good amount. What does the picture look like in that scenario for SKDA?
I'm really enjoying where I'm currently sitting in regards to my feelings around that answer, right? Like I completely appreciate that the position I sit in is extremely luxurious, fortunate in many regards. Like I don't take it for granted, right? I get it, man. Like it's amazing. But I'm in a really, really healthy spot in regards to my mindset on it all. Like I make enough money. No worries. And I love what I do. And the flexibility that it affords me, I couldn't match. I find it hard to believe that I could get the amount of freedom, satisfaction, and financial reward out of doing anything else. And if you said to me, hey, Sam, Like I'm at a point now, which I've not always been at, but I'm at a point now where if you said to me, hey, Sam, if you work, instead of working your 35 hours a week, which you're now doing, if you go work 120 hours a week again, which I did for a long time, for a year, then you'll get $100 million a year instead of whatever it is you're making. I don't think I'd take it. Mm-hmm. Because I'm just stoked, man. Like I'm good, you know? Like I'm so genuinely satisfied with where I'm sitting. And it's an incredible realization, right? Like obviously we've all got problems. I still stress about shit. My life's still hard, quote unquote, for different reasons. But like I'm just so genuinely woke and aware of the fact that like I've just got it awesome. And I'm stoked about it, you know? So I guess my point is like right now, I don't have an answer and I'm okay with that. Like I'm not ready to sell it. If someone came to me today and offered me what it was worth, I wouldn't take it, no way. Obviously money talks, there may be a point where that changes, but I don't see that being realistic. Like I'm good, man. I'm just good. I love my job. I love what I do. If I didn't have this for some reason, I would want to be doing what I'm doing. I don't need any more money. I like the flexibility I have is ridiculous. Like I'm just good. I stand behind the fact that I don't want to do only this forever. Like I really enjoy challenging myself. I like new things. I feel like some of the skill sets that I have, whether they're good or bad, have value in different applications. So I think that at some point in my journey of life, I would like to do something else with my time, not be attached to this brand that I've created forever. But I'm not there yet. Like I'm good. Good. So the systems and processes and automations mean that it's a sellable company. The way that it's built, the business model in its entirety is extremely flexible. Like it's something that would have value to people that don't have any idea about what we're doing, right? It's a business that will sit there and generate income without a whole lot of intervention. But I'm good. I'm happy, man. I'm just chilling. The company's still growing. I'm still loving taking new opportunities. I'm just not at a point where I'm willing to answer that question.
I loaded that up because you sent me a message that said, I reckon I got this balance thing figured out. Sure. What does it mean outside of the business?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, again, like upon reviewing my perception of that, I mean, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, right? Like, which comes from that same thing I was just talking about, this whole like reassessing my situation, appreciating it entirely. I have 2 young kids at home. My oldest daughter's 3.5. I have a younger daughter who's 6 months. And, you know, you constantly hear these famous rich people be like, the one thing you can't get back is time. Like, I wish I was there more with my kids. Like, you'll never regret spending time with your kids. And it's the same with my wife, right? Like, my wife's a stay-at-home mum, has some fun hobbies on the side, but she's in the trenches every day, you know, rocking it out and handling that stuff. And, like, I appreciate the fortune of where I'm sitting, but I have the opportunity right now to have all those amazing things that I said. And I'm doing 4 days a week, 30 to 35 hours. And the rest of the time I am 3 days at home, full time with my daughters, hanging out, going to the park, doing fun stuff. The relationship I have with each of my daughters, but especially my older one, obviously since she's a bit older, like we're best friends. Like she is my best friend. Like I would not want to spend time with anyone else in the world more than I would want to spend time with her. And like I think that's unreal. You know, like I see it as a chapter, you know, there'll be a point where the kids are at school and that'll change. They'll be more tied up in other things and therefore I'll have more free time that I might want to spend in business or doing other things. But right now I'm completely good with the fact that the chapter that I'm in, the business is still growing at rates that normal businesses don't, with me being involved at the level that I am, and I'm loving it, and I'm spending time with my kids. Like, I could never have wished for it to be better for me personally, right? Mm-hmm. Like, again, everyone's different, but for me personally, I'm chuffed, I'm good, which is why my message came across, right? Like, I think it's different for everyone. I appreciate that it's fortunate. I also appreciate that I've done the yards that are required, right, to get to a point where you have such opportunities. But I'm pretty damn stoked about it.
Because it's been very positive, I want to get dark.
Please.
You said to me, all of us guys in business have been through some tough shit. I've had my tears. I've lost money. I've won money. I've got out of businesses. I've made myself redundant. We've all been through those really painful pieces, and probably somebody right now is listening to us and going, I'm in there. Yeah. Like, I need some help.
Yeah.
What was the shit show that you were going through? What was one of the main crisis pieces? And then how did you get out of it?
Yeah. So the crisis piece is instant. I don't even have to think about it. I don't know exactly what that was, and I can talk about that. Before that, though, I think it's important to point out that, again, because of my level of commitment and my level of passion and focus for what I was doing, I think a lot of things that people would have seen as detrimental or dangerous or hard or a pivotal moment where they could have got out, I didn't even consider them as that. I didn't care. Like, smack me, run me over with a car. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm going to do this. I don't care. Mm-hmm. So like these things that were challenges or that people sometimes found to be the thing that cruxed them or killed them. Like, I didn't even feel it. Like just fucking get out of my way. I'm going. Get in or get off. I don't care. I'm going. The danger of that, which again led to the deep dark point, was that like I have had to, my level of obsession, which is what it is, right? Which is unhealthy in a lot of regards. Like, I think I've heard this quote that's something along the lines of like the most amazing sports people in the world, right? Like Cristiano Ronaldo or LeBron James or whatever. These people are not special people. They are just normal people who gave up, who are focused on one thing and got amazing at one thing at the cost of everything else. Mm-hmm. And that shatters me, right? Like, that line makes my bones shake because it's like, that's sort of how it is, right? Like, my obsession for what I'm doing is unhealthy in most regards, in most angles, from most perspectives. The payoff is that I was able to focus relentlessly, without deviation, without much effort. Like, it came very, very naturally to me. It was too easy. Mm-hmm. But the cost of that is you are unhealthily obsessed. And that can hurt people around you really, really quickly. So I think, I definitely lost friends. I lost, a lot of, not respect, but I lost like some appreciation from my family a few times because, again, I just didn't even see their issues. Like, and I unconsciously didn't want to hear it because I was just in, like, I don't want to deal with your crap. You know what I mean? I'm going this way. I can't even hear it. You can't even get into me. And it wasn't intentional. This is how I was. And that led to a point, like a pivotal point in that was me and my missus, before I was manufacturing myself, we were outsourced printing, right? I was based in Adelaide. I was doing it after hours. I got to the point where the company was doing about $300,000 a year revenue and I was still doing a day job. So I was running that stupid o'clock in the morning until stupid o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And I had a missus and she was like fine with it because she'd never really known any different. Anyway, and it got to a point where I realized I had someone push me to say, all right, you need to go and get your own production equipment now, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. I was sort of hesitant from it, but eventually I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Did my numbers on it and it was a no-brainer. Like, the cost of a setup, I would have made more than that profit by having the gear instantly. Obviously, there was still risk. You're still taking your jump as a 21-year-old kid or whatever. Mm-hmm. But cool, so we do that. I'd never seen a printer in my life. So to do that, I'd never seen a printer in my life, and the printing gear that I researched as the stuff that I need, there was no tech support for in Adelaide. So the tech support that was available was in Victoria. That was where you also buy the gear from. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was committed to this thing to my death, mm-hmm. right? So the answer was, if I buy a printer and it rocks up here, I've never even seen one before, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So let's move. Let's move to Melbourne, to 3 minutes away, as close as physically possible to the factory, so that when I get it delivered, they can come, drive over and help me with it. Mm-hmm. And in the first 3 months when I have a problem every single day, they can drive over and help me with it, right? So that's what we did. My missus, who was not, like, we were just girlfriend and boyfriend, right? We were together for, 3 years maybe, was in. She was like, yeah, sick, let's do it, which was pretty crazy in hindsight that she was willing to just pack up her life and come with me. We weren't living together before that. So we went over there, found a rental property, got a house, bought the gear, and then started grinding away. And now she's a bit of an introverted person, so moving states was super hard for her. It was always going to be. She's not someone that was just going to go and find friends easily. And I was like, we had just shifted our lives for this. I was committed. I was in. So I worked, no shit, like 7 days a week, 3 till 10. every single day. Didn't stop for lunch, didn't go for a walk outside. I was like, this was it. And Kels, my wife now, helped me with it, obviously. She was helping with stuff out, cutting sheets, helping cut orders, pack orders, whatever. But like, we didn't have human conversations. The dining room of the rental property was the printing facility. The garage was full of packing gear. We had and it was a 2-story flat. Upstairs was 1 bedroom where we slept and then 2 bedrooms full of stock. Downstairs was, again, living area was gone. So then our entire livelihood was the bedroom upstairs, and then the kitchen, we put in a couch and a TV into the kitchen. So we cooked and lived and ate in that little 3x3 square meters. And a few months in, she did her ACL. Or found out she had an ACL that needed to get done. So then she was homebound too. So then she was stuck in a house with this psychopath dude who wouldn't even talk to her, who was constantly angry and stressed. She had no one else to talk to, no friends, couldn't go anywhere. The place we lived was like the back of a horrible place, part of town, no trees, just concrete. Like, it was horrible, right? And we started to slowly drift apart, and it got worse and worse, and I couldn't even see it. I was just focused, and it got all the way to the point where she came to me one day in tears. She was in tears constantly, like every few days I'd find her in tears, right? And I knew that it was sort of related to the situation, but I was too locked.
You had too much to do.
I was gone, I was here. And she came to me one day and she's like, Sam, I'm going home. Like, I'm going back to Adelaide. And she said, you can come with me or not, but I'm gone. And that was heavy, man. Like, that was just insane, right? Like, it was wild to me. Like, because I didn't even see it coming. Like, all the signs were there. Like, I should have known. I remember speaking about how the relationship was tough at that point, but I just didn't feel that coming. And that hit me like a truck, So I got heaps of advice. I spoke to people because it wasn't easy for me. Like, I wasn't like, yeah, done. Like, I was like, okay, I need to assess this. Like, which is crazy, right? But like, I was genuinely like trying to toss up what my options were, which was wild. So, because I mean, from outside looking in, like, obviously go with your missus, but it wasn't that obvious for me. So I spoke to a lot of people, and something that I had heard someone say to me who knew what they were talking about a few years before, they sort of said, like, be careful how much you give up for this business, because at the end of the day, you'll get to a point one day where all the money and all the cars and all the flashy shit in the world won't matter if you don't have a family to love. You don't have someone there to share it with. You don't have people around you, right? And again, I'd killed some friendships. I'd killed some family relationships somewhat. But that one was a big one to kill, to consciously and by choice, A or B, sitting in front of you, take. And when I probably assessed that, I realized that, option B wasn't option A, close the business, or option B, follow your missus. It was adapt the business and go home with your missus.
Disruption.
Correct, which I just didn't see it like that. So once I came to that realization, then we went ahead. We packed up our stuff. We cancelled our lease. We broke our lease. We moved back to Adelaide. I got our first office. We hired our first staff member. It ended up being a beautiful part of the fairy tale, which has built the company that was required, right? But like, that was a dangerous point where my obsession took me to a dark place that was really, really hard. That almost cost me more than money could buy,
Does she resent the business now from that period?
She did for a long time. Like, she's only got good with it in the past, like, because that was 2016, 17, right? And she's only got good with even me talking about it properly in the last 2 or 3 years. Till that point she did. Bloody oath.
Because we drag a lot of people along for the ride.
Yep.
We don't see it.
Yep. Which is wild, right? And again, I appreciate the fact that there was a long story, but I wanted to paint the picture, right? Like, it's hard, man. It's dark, and I had to be really, really careful not to let my, my nature, my unconscious intents take me to somewhere that I couldn't have ever got myself out of.
That's the message or the type of story that we want to be sharing. This is about the lifestyle empire. It's about building our empire, not just a business, not just about advertising tactics.
Sure.
It's about everything that comes into the ecosystem, because business can come and go, but the people around us, we need someone to share it with.
Yeah.
I want to know, and just shift gears quickly.
Sure.
Get back to the man that is and a bit of the future. What are you currently learning?
I am focusing really hard at the moment on myself and my enjoyment of life and my perspectives and my angles and everything else, which maybe has come out in some of the talking that I'm doing, right? Like, again, it's a chapter, right? Like, I'm sure in 5 years I'll be a different cat. But at the moment, that's what I'm putting a lot of effort into. And I'm really enjoying the process of like discovering who I am and what I want and how I want to paint my next X years.
To somebody who hasn't dedicated the better part of a decade to a business, it sounds very stupid, but it is really, really fucking hard to work out what you like. Like, what would I have done? What do I enjoy doing? And most of the time it comes back to, I would rather just have a hard day's work, like a really strong output day of work. That's what I get my satisfaction out of. Mm-hmm. Very hard for other people to relate to. Mm-hmm. There's a small group of us that get it. Yeah. Yeah. But it doesn't sound fun. Yeah. Yeah. I think that I have the ability to look at things from a decently far back vantage point. Mm-hmm. Right. And again, my situation affords me the ability to do that. So I'm really enjoying that process, like questioning everything, like I love it, like what do I want to do with my time? How? I don't want another $10 million. So what do I want to do? And, what is success? I've said a few times in this podcast, right? Like quotations around success, we can get to that anyway, but I think that I enjoy questioning that shit. I enjoy pulling it all apart, Define it for me, please. What does it look like to you?
Yes.
Not the Oxford definition.
Because it's
your
different for everyone.
Of success.
And I'm it's different for everyone, right? And I think that's really, really important. I don't know, I don't want to sound cliche. The way that I'm currently framing it, for me personally, the way that I look at it, I think my own perspective of it is different to the society norm. It's not money at all. It's none of that crap. That's all bullshit. It's the ability to enjoy life. Genuinely enjoy your passage through time or whatever, I'm sure there's a more artistic way to articulate it, but I think it's just about genuinely enjoying your time, finding a way to enjoy your life the way that it is and the challenges and things that you face and just be completely satisfied with where you're at.
Mate, from one Sam to another, I appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Bye for now.
Yeah, thanks.